I've finished the AUTOBOMBER Frostbitten Heart GEMMA BT with the support of an excellent player. Basically, you can achieve like 80% of the effect. Let's look at the damage first. It's about 5 trillion. Let me try it for 5 seconds first. Now I only use Frost Shield. Just hit 5 seconds. Let's see one more duration DPS. Start decreasing. About 20 seconds. However, Frostbitten Heart GEMMA as a trait. Heart of the Snow. Blooming Frost Flower needs stacks. Shield is bone-piercing frost. Also, extreme coldness that reduces resistance needs stacks. That means it costs 2 seconds to get to your max damage. The peak of your damage exists between the 2nd and 5th second. Finally, you can create damage of 4 trillion. It's 20 seconds or so before it starts to decrease. In total, it's about 5 trillion damage. You can see that I'm cancelling all my support skills. Now there's only Ring of Ice and Precise triggered while channeling left. Even so, it still creates an incredible damage while testing. You see, it also spends 5 seconds making the max damage, and the survival is over 600,000. Energy shield of over 10,000. And resistance. The point is that she's an AUTOBOMBER with high movement speed. Now movement speed up is 140%, and I have Agility Blessing, 5 stacks of Agility Blessing, with Path of Flames. They bring a bonus of nearly 200% movement speed, which makes a smooth experience of running. First, I'd like to explain why this BD makes high damage. There are 3 basic bonuses: spell damage, damage increase, and critical strike damage. This BD maximizes all these 3 types of damage. For spell damage, you choose Mind Focus. That brings 8,000 mana and 17 stacks of Focus Blessing. Nearly 3,000 cold spell damage. That's a very high value. Plus compensatory life, which provides 3,000% damage increase. This one is also very high. Compensatory life has been enhanced in this game version. It's very powerful. You may also use compensatory life if your strategy is to gain damage increase through mana cost. In this way, for every 100 mana consumed, at 15% spell damage, up to 3,000%, which means consuming 5,000 mana per second is enough. The cast speed of Path of Flames is about 30 times per second. I use these 2 rings to add skill cost. In this way, casting skill once costs about 220 mana. It consumes 6,000 mana in 1 second, which can fully substitute for compensatory life to provide a damage increase of 3,000%. Besides, there's critical strike damage. Dream Talking makes the strategy of high mana better. Here's the affix. For every 60 mana sealed, plus 5% critical strike rating. And this one, at 28 spell critical strike rating per stack of Focus Blessing owned. That is to say, Dream Talking adds spell critical strike rating to the strategy of high mana with Mind Focus. As long as you have these 2 affixes, your critical strike rating is full. You only need to increase critical strike damage. Critical strike damage is very easy to increase in the strategy of high mana, since there's this affix in Talent and Divinity slate. For % spell critical strike rating per stack of Focus Blessing owned. Also, you can take this affix on your necklace. 5% critical strike damage per stack of Focus Blessing owned. All these things fulfill your critical strike damage. Now my critical strike damage is over 600, and critical strike rating is full. These are the main reasons why this strategy creates super high damage. The second point is that Frostbite increases a great amount of damage. I don't choose two-handed weapon, like other Frostbitten Heart GEMMA. That's because Dream interpretation of one-handed weapon is easy to make. Let's say I have 2 weapons. Then I'll have 6 chances for dream interpretation. If I ruin one in dream interpretation, reset it, and choose another weapon for dream interpretation. Actually, I've ruined 2 weapons. I made a total of 3 weapons. There's finally a working one until dream interpretation of my 3rd weapon. Besides, if a fix brings additional damage against frozen enemies, is equipped on 2 weapons, it's multiplication. If equipped on 1 weapon, it's addition. A 2-handed weapon increases less damage than 2 one-handed weapons. Everyone should understand that. These are the reasons why this BD does so much damage. Enough about the mechanism, let's talk specifically about talent. The talent is still the same. High mana with mind focus, Winter plus insight. And choose mana talent. Since we already have super high damage increase, we don't need all these talents that increase damage. We need attack and cast speed. While critical strike is not necessary, attack and cast speed is necessary. I don't choose it because I have cultivation. Then we choose focus blessing. Then energy shield, mana, speed. This one is a must. Restores 1% of mana when using skills. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep up with the mana restoration. Also a talent that can inflict frostbite and increase frostbite inflicted. Magister here we choose bunch and play safe. Just take a look. These are all very routine choices of high mana with mind focus. You must choose one between mind focus and extreme coldness. I have mind focus plus cultivation. That increases cast speed. That's why it's in my talent. There's not a lot of talent to increase cast speed. Otherwise, you should try to increase more cast speed in talent. And then the slate. I've just talked about Divinity slate. As to statue of the new god, there's one necessary affix. Restores 2% of missing mana when using skills. This plus the 1% restored mana in talent equals 3%. That is to say, every time you use skills, you can restore 3% mana. About 300. Path of Flames costs about 200 mana. Just in time for you to restore mana. This way you won't be worried about the negative effect brought by the helmet, which makes you lose 50% of current mana. Loss is not consumption. What's lost is lost. It's not counted as consumption of compensatory life. There are a couple of affixes in slate that are better. Restoring mana is a must. The other affix that's better is adding the max stacks of focus blessing, additional focus blessing stacks. The max of spell burst, it is also necessary. 4% additional spell critical strike damage per stack of focus blessing owned, and chances to gain tenacity blessing and agility blessing when receiving focus blessing. Now let me introduce my trait. I didn't choose Frigid Infusion because it is not that easy to use when farming. When you fight with monsters, you need to fulfill Frostbite first. You can only kill the monster when it is frozen. If you choose Frost Tides, you can directly freeze a monster through Cold Pulse and cycle it. So I recommend Frost Tides for normal farming. The strategy of accumulating Frostbite is feasible only when you fight with a challenging boss that costs you a long time. However, by the time we get 5 trillion damage, there's basically no such a monster. The first time you freeze a monster, you can definitely kill it, and the time of the first freeze lasts about 7.5 seconds. It's really strange if you can't kill monsters with this high damage. So talent is 12111. Frost Tides decreases the seconds of Cold Pulse interval, and memory decreases 1 second more. This is mainly used for quick farming. Frostbitten her GEMMA has a trait that, even she's an AUTOBOMBER, farming is still not so smooth, because she needs a little time to create damage. First she needs to freeze the enemy, then adding bone-piercing frost and extreme coldness to gain stacks. The whole experience is just not so good. In terms of memory, I take 40 movement speed, and another one that adds the max of cold energy is not the best. The best is to deal additional damage to frozen enemies. Then I'll talk about the gear. Prefix of the weapon. Spell level with 2 prefix to add max mana, suffix to create additional damage against frozen enemies, additional spell burst damage, and spell critical strike damage. It's the same on the other side. You need dream interpretation to get focus blessing. Two rings are the same. Choose suffix that adds freeze duration and resistance. Prefix is to add the max stacks of focus blessing. And skill cost, same for both rings. As to the shoe, you choose spell burst charge speed, additional focus blessing, and 60% movement speed. The belt is compensatory life. You should pay attention that it is based on this premise. When not at low life, so your life must not fall below 35%. In order to get elemental amplification, for gloves, just choose the prefix to add spell skill level, and choose the suffix to add frostbite rating. In fact, adding frostbite rating is not that useful. But in case you can't defeat the monster in the duration, you can quickly stack a second freeze duration. However, I don't think there's such a monster. Necklace must have a beacon. And freeze duration. Here I have 3T0 affixes of freeze duration. Plus those in talent, that's almost 5 seconds. Besides, there's 50% additional freeze duration upon freezing an enemy for the first time. That is 7.5 seconds. 5 trillion damage in 7.5 seconds. It's quite strange if you can't kill a monster. And then the chest armor. For chest armor, you choose those brings additional energy, shield of max mana, focus blessing, elemental resistance, and erosion resistance. Helmet we choose surging inspiration. And skills. Pad of flames with these 3. Frigid transmission. Now frigid transmission won't interrupt channeling. So just use it normally. The skill cooldown of frigid transmission will be refreshed upon inflicting freeze. It's very convenient. Fixate, secret origin unleash, defensive buffer. Precise, triggered while channeling. And overload. Critical strike damage increase. Then I'll talk about critical strike damage increase. Some people may think that it's not necessary if critical strike rating is low. In fact, even though critical strike rating is only 50%, you should take it if there's 500% critical strike damage. Assuming there's only a 50% critical strike rating, when you make a critical strike, the damage is 500. Otherwise, you only create a damage of 100. This critical strike damage increases at 500 damage, not the 100 damage. So if you have high critical strike damage, even if critical strike rating is low, your damage is like nothing. When there's no critical strike. So this is a must. It's not like that you only need to take when your critical strike rating is nearly full. Then freeze chance. Psychic burst and freeze chance. Here's auto defense plus frost shield. Since this BT doesn't include armor, we need frost shield and defensive buffer. These 2 skills to resist physical damage. Then is erosion amplification. Remember your life mustn't drop below 35%. In this way, you may gain elemental amplification for free. Then, triggered while channeling and arcane circle, elemental resistance, frigid domain. Precise, energy fortress, and swiftness. As to soul candle, choose cold skill level. If you think there's some problems with survival, you may choose barrier of radiance. Then let's talk about dream interpretation. The dream interpretation of weapon and gloves is fixed. And for another dream interpretation, since shallow dreams can be used an unlimited number of times, I'd recommend the chest armor or necklace for dream interpretation. The prefix of necklace can get 37% max mana through dream interpretation, and clothes can get 60%. My chest armor didn't succeed, and all 6 of my chest armor's affixes are good. I can't throw any of them away. But the necklace, because it can be infinitely interpreted, you have to wait until the negative affix becomes the 6th one. Now I have 5 crafting affixes, and an enchant one. When you only have 5 affixes, enchant doesn't count, because enchant is after dream interpretation. You may first craft 5 affixes. Positive affix is like increase in max mana, and negative affix is put in the 6th one, and it amounts to be invalid. Although my beacon is in the 6th, it is not considered as a blemish, because this enchant doesn't count. Beacon is actually the 5th. As a whole, this BD makes you run fast. Survival is okay. A couple 100,000 of survival can make you particularly unbeatable, but for the time being, I don't have a better way to boost survival. Let's take a look at the survival. The maximum survival is 840,000. Occasionally 500,000. Anyway, that's it.